And welcome back to TommoTalks, the topical conversation podcast. In this series, Tommo Talks Music, and I'm Tommo, your host, and today I am absolutely excited to welcome along drummer Dylan Elise. Dylan is all the way from New Zealand, started playing the drums when he was 6 years old. He's a super talented drummer, always pushing the boundaries with his drumming. Since 2003, he's been holding clinics and performing in Malaysia, Indonesia, Japan, Australia, Western Samoa, and American Samoa. He's also been the drummer from popular New Zealand band Sons of Zion, and now he's based in Los Angeles, California, and is the current drummer for the legendary US band Blood, Sweat and Tears. He's living the dream in LA, he's getting to play with other amazing musicians, and he's also doing drum clinics online now because of the COVID-19 crisis. As I said, it's an absolute thrill. Dylan, I'm so stoked you're being part of TommoTalks. How's everything going, man? How's it in LA right now?
I really hate intros. Man, everything's pretty good, dude. Thanks for having me on the show, man. I mean, everything's good considering everything that's going on.
Right.
It's pretty crazy, man.
Yeah,
COVID, and then obviously everything with George. It's pretty wild to be in America and in LA right now, especially. Yeah, for sure.
So listen, I gave a quick snapshot of, there's so much to talk about, like you've been doing a lot of things for a long time. I actually started following you a number of years ago. There was a video of you posted busking at the Wellington Sevens. For the listeners, Wellington Sevens is a rugby competition that's played in New Zealand every year. It's part of a tour. They have the same sort of thing in Las Vegas, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and it's a big party. So basically you go along, you get to see 20-year-old games of rugby. Everyone's on party mode and drinking, and then there's this young kid, I think you were like 14 at the time, jamming, and there was literally hundreds of people surrounding you, and I saw your chops back then. I saw you playing traditional style, and I remember thinking, man, this kid has got something pretty special. And that's how I sort of continued to follow you. As I'm saying, I followed you since you were a young boy. Isn't it weird that now we have the social media, it's okay to say that. If I said that 15 years ago, yeah, I've been following this kid since he was 14, I'll be locked up. So crazy. Anyway, so we're at this point where there's this kid, and I've just watched you grow over the years. So you're in LA now, you're playing with Blood, Sweat and Tears for the listeners that don't know who they are. They're one of the iconic soul bands from the US. They closed Woodstock in 1969. If you're a bass player, Jaco Pastorius played bass for them for a moment. And now I'm not sure if he won, but he was on The Voice as the main vocalist. Can you just sort of tell us about, like, right now, Blood, Sweat and Tears, what's going on, how's it all working?
Sure, man. So I'm incredibly lucky to have the opportunity that I was presented with back in 2013, which was to come out here and sit in with the band, but and like kind of try out for the band. But the band has been through so many iterations, and like you say, with Jaco was in the band for a minute back in, I think, like the early 70s. Mike Stern was in the band at the same time, I think, for a minute as well, and it's just. I mean, Randy Brecker, so Michael Brecker's brother, so the trumpet player, like he was the original, one of the original trumpet players. So this band has gone through so many, and now we have guys like Keith, who was on. He didn't win. I can't remember where he placed, but was on The Voice, I think the year before last year, and just he's an incredible singer, man. And before that. We had Bo Bice, who came runner-up to Carrie Underwood,
right?
And he was an incredible frontman. It's like great, really great for me to be able to perform with these people. I mean, I remember watching. I never saw Keith because I don't watch like The Voice, but back in, I think, whenever season 4 of American Idol was, I remember watching Bo Bice as a kid,
right,
on American Idol. And then coming here and then getting to meet him and then obviously work with him and everything. It's just like, man, it's really crazy for someone who's, from Porirua.
Yes. You made it out.
And it's really exciting, man. And so many other things have happened since then. Other people that I play with as well now. But yeah, it's pretty incredible, dude. I like going on with the same theme as watching Bo Bice. I remember watching back and forth, like the whole DVD inside and out, over and over and over of the original Woodstock.
Right.
Watching that DVD, and then getting to play with a band that headlined that same festival. You know, it's like, man, it's pretty surreal. And then in 2018, I got to last year, I got to play the 50-year anniversary of Woodstock at Woodstock with the band.
Right.
That headline, you know, it's like, it's pretty, that was pretty incredible for me, man. You know, it was very humbling, and it was really surreal. Like, honestly, like watching that DVD of all those incredible acts, you know, watching that DVD over and over and over, and then to be kind of a part of it or attached to it 50 years later was pretty incredible. I mean,
and listen, I think Woodstock was really the festival that spawned all the festivals that we know today, right?
Yeah, man, it's insane. I mean, I know they tried to do it a few more times after that, but it wasn't. None of them were like the first one. I mean, the acts that you had, man, Santana, Joe Cocker,
Hendrix,
you know, Hendrix, like Sly and the Family Stone, which I've been able to do a gig, like a double headliner gig with them.
Right.
It's ridiculous, man. I mean, the gig when we played, when we did the 50-year anniversary, I forget the name of the guy who played after us, but he also played the original. And then this guy didn't play the original, but Ringo Starr's All Stars played after us. So I got to open for a Beatle, man. You know, I got to the open for the drummer Beatle.
Yeah.
You know, and he had like Steve Lukather there and a bunch of other like big names. And it's just like pretty crazy, man, because these are people I grew up with, that my mom grew up with, and all that.
Of course. So, I mean, how often, you must have it a lot that you sort of pinch yourself or just have a reflection and go, this is just crazy. Like when you were sitting in Porirua as a 6-year-old, when you first picked up those sticks, did you ever in your wildest dreams think that this could be possible and you would be here now?
No, not at all. Not at all. But yeah, I didn't know what to think at the time. You know, I'm just like, man, this is kind of cool.
Right.
It's drums. They sound loud, and it's better than piano.
So
at the time,
let's go back.
Now I wish I played piano instead.
Right. Especially when you try to tune all your toms and get a great mix for your videos, right?
Yeah.
So let's go back to 6-year-old Dylan. Do you remember the moment where you either heard a song or you saw something on TV? Was there a pivotal moment where you were just like, oh man, this is me, this is what I want to do?
That didn't happen until much later, actually. But when I was 6, it was kind of, you're going to play an instrument, but you get to pick which one.
Oh, yeah? That was from your parents?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's like the typical Samoan kind of way. So yeah, it was like, all right, I want to pick drums. Like if I have to play an instrument, I'll pick the drums.
Right.
And then I was instructed to learn piano. And then I ended up doing drums and piano at the same time.
Right.
And when I was about 9, I was allowed to stop playing piano and just play drums. And then I guess when you go out and you play and you kind of, it's hard to work out. I mean, I thought I was really good when I was young,
right?
Because I'd never heard like real drummers. You know, I had a couple drum teachers, and they would teach me things like, here's a paradiddle, here's how you play it, and like, all right, cool, I've done it. What now? Like, all right, let's move on to the next thing. Like, you've completed that. You've finished the paradiddle,
right?
You know, like that's kind of how I was taught. Like, all right, you're done with that. Like, how do I use that? Like, don't worry about it. You finished it. All right, next one. Like, you know,
right.
So then I thought, because I was learning and I was completing everything that my teacher was giving me, I thought, man, I must be like the best drummer in the world, like for my age. You know,
right.
I'm like, obviously my teacher's better than me, but he's the best in the world. And if I'm like close to him, if I can do everything he's telling me to do, I must be like the best kid drummer in the world.
Right.
And then I saw a video of Tony Royster.
Right. Tony Royster Jr., yeah?
Yeah. And it just, I was like, how is he doing that? What is he doing?
Right.
And, a bit of humble pie, which is good. Everyone needs that. And now I know a lot more about drumming and drummers, and I'm forever eating humble pie.
Sure. But I think that's key, though, like to keep keep developing and keep pushing it, you've got to be on the search, constantly learning, right?
All the time, man, all the time. I mean, I loved where my career was in New Zealand. Before I came here, I was really happy with it. I was playing massive festivals, playing to tens of thousands of people with Sons of Zion and a couple other acts that that had some traction. But I kind of wanted more,
Sure.
And when this opportunity was presented, I was like, man, at the time I didn't know the band, I didn't know any of the music.
Yeah.
My mom had, but my mom was 3 when the band started. In
Right.
'67, my mom's 3 years old. So even for her, she's like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I know. I recognize the name, and I played a couple of songs." She's like, "Oh yeah, I've definitely heard like one of those songs."
Right.
So I had no idea what I was really getting into, and I thought it was kind of, like it was just going to fall through like most other opportunities. I mean, when those busking videos and stuff hit,
yeah,
they did the rounds, and I got a lot of contact from people like, "Hey man, come to Phuket and I want you to help open up my restaurant. Hey, come to France and do drum clinic here." But like everything kind of falls through once you look at the expenses or something like that. I mean, plane tickets are ridiculous. So when they actually sent the plane ticket, I was like, "Oh, okay, they have a flight." And I looked at, "Oh, there's my name's on it." So I'm like, "Oh, okay, I better do some research now and check into this band."
Yeah.
Because everything else had just fallen through. Everything else is build-ups,
Right.
So, and this happened, and man, it was pretty incredible. I mean, the whole experience is pretty insane.
So we'll get to
now.
when you actually flew from Hawaii over to LA to first meet everyone. But let's go back a little bit to around 2003 when you started doing drum clinics. Like you say, those videos did blow up. For the listeners, if you just go to YouTube and search Dylan Elise drummer, they're all going to pop up. They're everywhere. And so,
fortunately,
dude, you must look at those and go, look, listen, if it wasn't for those, you wouldn't be sitting where you are right now, right?
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And how old? You were 14 then, around about 14.
So I started busking when I was 14, and I think there might be some stuff going around that age. But the videos that really went well, there was one, the Touring-Mucician Jazz Festival.
Yep.
I was 16.
Right.
In that one, and then the busking videos, I think the first ones that really got some kind of traction were, I was like 19, 20, and 21. But it was like the 19-year-old ones, and I don't know, all of them I'm shirtless because at the time I could do that.
It's called middle-age spread, mate.
Not anymore.
Happens to the best of us.
But I mean, yeah, those videos, and I still to this day don't own those videos. They weren't anybody that I know the guy now.
Yeah.
Well, I met him at the time, and he's like, "Hey man, do you mind if I just record a bunch?" And he would record like hours, because I would be out there for hours, and then he just titled them the way he did, and that's why people looked at it, because of those outrageous titles.
Right.
Yeah, world's best drummer, or best drummer in the world ? Of course people are going to look at it, and I'm like, oh. So people think that I'm responsible for those titles.
Right.
I mean, I did not post those. I still don't own those videos. It's not my doing. Right. But it is responsible for me being here. So I'm grateful, while it's also incredibly embarrassing.
Now, with the drum clinics, because they sort of took off for you as well, how did you get into that? Right. Was that through a tutor that was like, "Oh, I think you'd be really good doing this," or how did that come about?
I think, man, and just kind of like, it only really kind of popped into my head now, but I was homeschooled mostly. My sister and I were homeschooled mostly. So we didn't really have like access to kind of like other kids that were playing music. But then my parents, like, they got us to have like kids bands. So they would sort of like outsource and find other kid musicians. And we had bands, and it was really cool, really, really good for us. I mean, my sister at the time wasn't really playing music, so she wasn't, and she's 3 years younger than me. So I'm like 8 or 9, and the other kids were like 8 or 9 as well. So that was really cool. But as far as playing in band, like, I didn't really do the Rock Quest thing. I did it like a couple times, but from homeschool, so it wasn't like, and I had some friends that I just knew from other bands, and I kind of like poached the bass player from a different school that I knew from the year before. I was like, he's really cool, like he'd be good in the band, like I'm gonna steal him,
Right.
grab this guy, like, you know. So I kind of just formed this band from people from different colleges, like Wellington College, Onslow, and then homeschool.
Right.
um,
And
and then
also
did the same, you know.
we must mention,
Sorry?
because you just mentioned your sister Hannah.
Yeah,
You need to people. If you're a bass player or you think you're a good bass player, you want to check Dylan's sister out, Hannah Elise. I'm not sure what her Instagram is. Is it just Hannah Elise bass player or something, or whatever?
I think it's Hannah Elise bass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something like that. Like, go check
she's
that
got
out.
more followers than me now.
She, well, listen, I've been playing bass for about 4 years, and sometimes when she posts videos, I'm like, I just think I'm going to burn my bass and stop now. Like, it's incredible. So I don't know
Right.
what your mother put in the wheat bix or the whole homeschooling or whatever, but it's pretty crazy. You both have sort of really come to shine. Don't get to play with it that much, but when you do, it must be pretty tight. Yeah, being family and all.
I think yeah, people I guess kind of assume that we played together all the time, which we really maybe would like jam at home occasionally, but just the way it was set up, like I'd practice drums, the loud drums in the garage, and she'd practice elsewhere, you know. So we
Right.
didn't really play together a whole lot. But I think with me being her brother, like that kind of helped her develop her sense of time and stability and like pulse as a bass player.
Sure.
So now when she plays with other drummers, you know, it's like it's locked pretty like instantaneously. So yeah, I'm really proud of her, man. And she developed not even kind of, she definitely developed a sense of pocket before I did. Because I guess the focus for me was to be like the fastest at this, like do all the, you know, double kick, and like I had two hi-hats going, and like be the technical guy, learn all the rudiments, do all the rudiments on your feet. Like that was the focus for me.
Right.
And for her was more just kind of like just maybe enjoy music a little more, just play what you want to play, you know. She
Right.
started off with guitar, then picked up the bass. She's like, this is my calling.
Yeah.
So she developed that feel a lot earlier than I did. It took a while for me to kind of develop that, and I didn't really understand kind of what people were talking about, because all I knew was technicality, theory.
Right.
Like I can read this, put this in front of me, I can read it. Now I wish I could do that again, but I kind of just, you know, you need a bit of balance. So yeah, she is incredible, and I'm really happy. I'm really proud of her.
That's awesome to hear. That's
really
awesome.
proud. I mean, she's doing it for a living in New Zealand, you know,
Right.
and it's not the easiest thing to do, because there's so many great musicians and there's only so many bars or so many gigs, you know. So to be a musician anywhere is tough. I mean, here in the States, especially in LA, it's really tough.
Yeah.
But it's tough anywhere, you know. And when I was growing up and coming up through, people know, like kind of learning who I was, especially in like the Pacific Island community, at least. It was always, oh, there's Dylan, and there's Dylan's sister.
Right.
You know? And sometimes in like bios, like we were playing a jazz festival in Samoa, and it was like, you know, and this is the sister of Dylan.
Okay.
You know, even though I wasn't playing the festival,
Okay.
kind of like sister of Dylan Elise. And then, but now it's, oh, that's Hannah, and that's Hannah's brother. You know, it's not, it's, and I'm so happy, because like she has her identity, and that's her, and she is her own musician. She's not like off the back of anyone else. You know, I haven't really done her any favors. So,
Yep.
As far as me getting into positions for things, like she's doing it all on her own, man, and I like that a lot. So
Yeah, and listen, other people are taking notice for sure. Like Wolfpack shared her version of Deantown on their Instagram page the other day. And if you got Joe Dart checking you out, man, it says something, right? Like it's pretty cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm so happy for her. You know,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm sure other opportunities will come from this. So
for sure. So
I got to get her to share my videos.
Yeah, exactly. Payback, or just be known as Hannah's older brother.
Yeah, Hannah's older brother that apparently plays the drums.
Yeah, something like that. So when you got to sort of early to mid-teens, was there companies sniffing around wanting to sort of bring you in to sort of shape you, if you will, or were you sort of pretty much free to do what you want as far as, I know you're playing DW now, and I think you have been for a long, long time. Was that your choice of kit to start out with, or did that sort of just happen organically?
Yeah, I guess this started at a young age, but I've always liked to be like the non-sheep.
Right.
So at the time in 2002, DW didn't have like much of a presence, not at least not in Wellington, which
Right.
is obviously where I'm from, and then I later relocated to Auckland.
Mm.
But DW was a brand that I kind of would see on TV a little bit, but mostly it was like Tammo, it was Pearl, like
Masters.
Yamaha.
Yeah.
Like those were the brands, and any friends that I had that played drums, they were like, "Yeah, Pearl's the best," you know.
Right.
And I kind of was always interested in something else, you know. And DW at the time, obviously now it's, you know, in the top 2, top 3 brands in the world. Like if you name drummers and what brand they play, like DW's at the top
For sure.
or in that top group. So now it's super popular, but at the time in New Zealand it wasn't, and they were really expensive. But I had a lot of support from a shop in Auckland called Drum City, which sadly is no longer there.
Oh, really?
Well, they had one like brother or sister shop down in Wellington, tiny shop, but then that closed because DW drums, like no one really knew about them. Plus they were expensive.
Right.
So
Quality,
anyway, they
though,
gave me like a somehow they saw some video footage or something, and they offered me an endorsement, which was incredible, man. So I was 12 years old and had my first endorsement from a store,
Right.
you know, so not actually the brand itself, but then they managed to help and get me in contact with some people. But things didn't really kind of happen in New Zealand so much. I mean, I had the shop endorsement, which was incredible, and I will forever be grateful for that. And then UFIP cymbals, or UFIP, which is Italian, like handcrafted. What is that? What they say? Handcrafted cymbals. I think that's like their slogan. And that was from going to an event in Melbourne called Ultimate Drummers Weekend, or Australia's Drummers Weekend, something like that. And I was just going around trying all the drums out, as you do. You know, like I'm not sure if you've ever been to NAMM, but it's just
it's just like it's a playground for musicians.
Just like, hey man, check out my chops.
Right.
So I guess I did that. I was one of those kids, and the guy who was running the Slingerland and UFIP store was like, hey man, yeah, like I want you to play these cymbals. So then that was great, and I think it was maybe 15, and got that endorsement. I think I went over there when I was 14 or something. So got that endorsement, sent me a whole bunch of, I guess at the time they were still able to give people free stuff.
Right.
Now the climate has certainly changed. But they gave me a bunch of cymbals, and I used that, and that's what I'm using on that video at the Tauranga Jazz Festival, all these bright, shiny UFIP cymbals. Then this opportunity came up, and I kind of hit them up. I was like, hey man, what's your presence like? I'm going to move to America. You know, can I get some stuff over there? And they said, well, we really don't have much of a presence there. It's like in Europe, and I guess the South Pacific, I mean, you know, like Australasia,
right?
And certainly Australia, and a little bit in New Zealand. So then I moved here, and without anything, you know, had some sticks, and I think I bought my double kick pedal.
Right.
And because of the band, the weight that they carry, things started coming in. And it's it's been awesome, man. I'm playing the sticks that I've been playing for the longest time. I'm endorsed by the company that I've always loved, you know,
right,
which is DW and Promark. And then I have these incredible Peisty cymbals, and I have Kelly Peisty's phone number in my phone. You know, if anything if I have any issue or I have an idea for something, I can just text her and say, hey,
right,
you know, how is it in Switzerland?
Yeah.
Can you make this kind of cymbal? You know. And that's pretty ridiculous too, man.
It is. Again, like going back to being a young fella in Porirua, the thought of that happening is probably never even sort of nestled in the mind, right?
Right. Actually, man, going back to what you kind of asked as far as how I started doing clinics. So there was a drum competition, Drum Wars.
Oh yeah.
And I entered that.
You won it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then
So
one of
humble.
the judges, I hate talking about some of the stuff, but one of the judges was George Wistrup, who was still a good friend of mine, and he was teaching at the Whiturea Polytech
Okay.
in Porirua.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, man, saw you at he was a judge, and I think he's the one who awarded me the winner, which was awesome, and that awesome that we're still friends. Um, he's like, hey, can you come and do like a little demonstration at Whiturea?
Right.
Like it'd be cool for my music students to come and see that. And then I did it again at Nainai College, which is where he taught drums there, and he taught drums at that Polytechnic. And then that's when it kind of started where like this is a thing that we could do, that we could like take a drumming show to schools, and that's what we did, man. And then my sister, when she was kind of confident enough to be able to play as well with me, then we started doing that together. So I'd play like some drum tracks and just be like, here's like, this is Latin music, and it's
Right.
This part like comes from Brazil, and that's what I'm going to play now. And then my sister, we did like a little medley of just popular bass lines that people were going to recognize. So a bunch of Michael Jackson and
Right.
some Queen or whatever, like just really recognizable bass lines. And that's why we would play together. And yeah, and then I did that for a long time, and then kind of drum clinics stemmed from that, because like, hey, can you come and do this at my drum store? It's going to bring in business for me, and it's going to exposure for you. It just, things just happen like that. And then I got asked to go and do that in Malaysia, and after those like busking videos came out, and Indonesia, and I've been there a bunch to go on tour and do clinic tours, man, which is pretty cool.
Now with
And that
all
was all before coming here.
right, and with all the clinic playing that you were doing, because then a lot of videos started to pop up online too, just from people that were in the audience, etc. Did you feel at any time that you were sort of just being labelled as a clinic guy and not actually a playing musician? Did that ever come across?
Oh man, absolutely. So it was like it was a catch-22, because I was homeschooled and I guess wasn't playing in like bands all the time. So I just worked on myself, worked on solos, worked on stick tricks, worked on being as fast or as entertaining as possible, doing like the coolest, some of the coolest shit.
Yep.
And because that was happening, and then I was getting exposure from these videos, like I'm asking, I'm trying to like get auditions with bands that are on, not Trade Me, but whatever, like wherever they were, like people looking for, for drummers, and they don't want a young drummer. They don't want, no, man, like we're an adult band. We don't want a 14-year-old, 15, 16-year-old, 17-year-old drummer. Like pretty much they want someone that they can drink with or whatever,
right,
and just hang with. Because that kind of, now that I've lived longer and in the music industry, that is a huge part of it, is like the hang. Like everyone can kind of play, but the hang and how you get along with people, like that's like 80% of it,
right,
because everyone can play. Like some people are better than others, obviously, but if you're chill and they like the company, then that's a big part of it. So no one wanted a 16 or anything under an 18-year-old drummer. So then I just kept working on all the solo stuff, the stick tricks, and then busking, and then the videos went out, and then people labeled me as that because that's all they saw me do.
right.
Even though I couldn't play in bands because no one wanted a young drummer. So it was just like this vicious kind of cycle. So that's where the clinics came. So like that's all great for solo playing, but then people that would see that, they're like, well, I don't want that as a drummer for me, for my cover band, which you can understand that. But then slowly people started taking a chance, and then I became really busy before I left. I mean, I was playing for a lot of people. I mean, I was doing jam nights, and I was doing regular cover gigs, and then just mostly playing for different artists.
This is now you're living in Auckland, right?
Yeah. So we moved when I was 18, I think.
Right.
Which I loved Wellington, and I wanted to stay down there, and I was playing rugby at the time, and kind of like sevens rugby and a little bit of representative stuff, and I wanted to stay down there because I was playing I was in the Manawatu 7 squad when I was 17.
Right.
And I wanted to just do that. And I wanted to be the next year so I could go and play in Queenstown, because I think you had to be 18 to do that. And I was like, all right, next year's my year to like break in, and then move to Auckland. And I turned up to an open trial, and there's like 300 people for the Auckland Sevens team. I was
Right.
like, man, like this is not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but yeah, just things started happening. People started taking a chance, and then then I just was getting hired for a lot of bands, a lot of gigs. Not a whole lot of recording work. The only real recording work I've done has been here,
Right.
which I'm happy because I can do it all from my studio here. Now I'm recording and sending stuff back to New Zealand or wherever in the world that people hire me from. So yeah, but it was really tough. People saw me as the guy with the stick tricks, and I don't want that, and I can appreciate that, and it's not their fault for not wanting to hire me, but now I get hired to do that in bands.
Right. Exactly.
Like with Blood, Sweat, and Tears, it's almost in the contract that if I do a drum solo and I don't spin my sticks, they're like, "Hey, man," but the people really love it.
And
The
they
people
do.
really love when you do the stick stuff.
Like
So-
when you like, there's loads of videos. Again, go search "Blood, Sweat, and Tears" on YouTube. Dylan Elise solo. Something's going to come up. There's loads of them. But what I love about it is you sort of start off very, very light, and then you sort of start to get into it quite heavy and start doing some really tricky stuff. And then you can hear the crowd building. And then when you start spinning your sticks, and it literally looks like the helicopters on the end of your fingers, that's when the crowd loses it, mate. Like you can hear people just going, "What?" Like it's awesome. So it's got to be a highlight. Like there's not too many drummers I've seen in live bands that can do that sort of stuff. So it's
it's definitely like it's ornamental. Like you don't need it to be a good drummer, but it definitely gets house. What they say here. Like it gets the crowd going. Yeah. I'll do all this other technical stuff. No one gives a shit.
Right.
Like, oh man, he's doing some like 3/2 stuff, and then his feet, he's got he's doing 4, and he's got 7 going on up here. Like no one cares about that, really. Unless you're playing like a full on jazz, like intimate thing where they're like people are there to listen to you. People that come to Blood, Sweat, and Tears shows are there because of the nostalgia, because they grew up with this music, and it was. All like during Vietnam and like that time. And so it's a lot of different emotions for people.
Sure.
And people like got married to like, to You Made Me So Very Happy, which is like a ballad, the most famous ballad that the band has. And people got married to that, or like it was at their high school dance or disco or prom or whatever. So it's definitely nostalgia. So people come and they know they're going to hear like great musicianship, but they're coming for those songs. You know? Whereas other gigs I do, people are coming and they're taking notes. They're like, what's he doing with this, and what his left hand has got this technique. And it's way more attentive. But the Blood, Sweat, and Tears gig it's pretty incredible, man. I mean, for the band to be 50, what are we, 53? We're in like the 54th year the band's been around.
And busy.
Yeah, I mean, we play up until recently. We play like anywhere between 60 and like 90 shows a year.
Right.
So that's obviously on average more than one a week. And all the shows, like none of the shows are in LA. Like we fly. The bass player and I live out here, and the rest of the band is East Coast based. Well, except for Keith, he's in Memphis. But so we fly, and man, like people, I don't think understand how big this country is, man. For it to take, I mean, I know you understand.
I do now. Yeah.
So you're in Canada, and it's much bigger than here.
Yeah.
But for it to take 6 hours to fly across the country, from coast to coast, you fly from Auckland to Dunedin in it's like under two hours or something like that. Yeah, it's like super quick, man.
Up and down.
So, yeah. So it's a lot of travel, man. A lot of time spent on the road. A lot of time spent. So
that's the thing I spoke to you about when we first connected, was that with your Instagram stories, I feel like you're on a plane every day. Like it's crazy, and it's not just like a 3-hour flight. Like you're flying to Norway, you're flying to the other side of the country, and then sometimes you're doing 2 or 3 flights in a day to get to a gig, to fly back in the next day to do a gig that you were pretty much close to where you left. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Crazy.
I mean, I'm so lucky. Like prior to all this, with COVID and everything, and I'm so happy and so lucky that I'm able to be a working musician in LA, because it's so competitive. I mean, Dave Weckl lives like 30 minutes from where I am, and which is like, because I'm at my studio in North Hollywood, and I live in Sherman Oaks, so he lives 15 minutes from where I live.
Right.
Vinny Colaiuta is like the same thing. Also lives in the Valley. I'm pretty sure. Like all these like drummers that I grew up listening to, and all the other drummers grew up listening to. These guys are all here. You know,
Right.
I mean, Jonathan Sugarfoot Moffat. You know, the drummer for
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson for the longest time. I mean, we spoke on the phone the other day for like an hour and a half, just talking about music and trading ideas, and just
Right.
saying, hey man, like what have you been doing since COVID? You know,
Right.
and that's incredible that I can call him a friend.
Yeah. And that was something I wanted to bring up as well on your Facebook page. And again, with Nam, you've met like Jonathan, you've met Tony Royster Jr. I think, if my memory serves me correctly, you also met Victor Wooten. Was that right?
Yeah, yeah.
How was that, man? Like, because
he is ridiculous. You know?
Right.
And the nicest dude, man. Like he is what you see on videos. That's exactly who he is.
Right.
And with a lot of these drummers as well, I mean, some of them are a little, you know, pretty sure of themselves and whatnot.
I'm sure.
But most of them, I think it's really like there's like a critical mass kind of, or like a turning point, or like a threshold. So if somebody respects you, like I got introduced to Dave Weckl, and he's been an idol of mine for the longest time. I had his VHS, you know, instructional videos and stuff when I was a kid. So getting to meet him, but because I was introduced by the bass player Rick, who lives out in LA as well, because Rick and Dave Weckl, well, Rick used to be in the Electric Band, the Chick Corea Electric Band in the 90s. So because Rick introduced me to Dave, like he respects him. So now, you know, then it's like, okay, so he's playing with BS&T and he's seen the show and stuff. And he apparently is a fan of mine, which is really super weird. But there's like kind of somewhat of a mutual respect, even though he's up here, you know. Right. But I guess the kind of same thing happened with Tony Royster when I first met him. Like I needed to let him know I'm not just a fan because you played with Jay-Z. Like I'm a fan from the 97 Modern Drummer when you were 12 years old and you did that solo. Like I learned a lot of that solo and I can still recite a lot of that. Like that's when I learned of you. And then he I guess was one of the people that had seen a lot of those busking videos. He's like, man, I know exactly who you are.
Wow, that's awesome.
And he's like, I love you. I love your shit too.
Right.
Like, all right, man, like that's super cool. And then we went and got drunk.
That's awesome, man. Such a good story.
And it's like, you know, and I met him through a friend, and like she hooked it up, and it was real, like because she knew him. I was like, man, this is crazy. And then I met, obviously, like I said, and he's like, man, I know exactly who you are too. That was like incredible. But then. So it was kind of like that level of respect, and then I just like, all right, man, let's not talk music anymore, you know? Right? Because really, if you're like after hours, you don't really want to talk music, you know?
For sure.
You just want to, have a couple of drinks and like chill out or whatever. But so that's kind of what happened with him, and then with Dave as well. Like we just started talking about everything but drums. Right. And the same with Jonathan, you know, with Sugarfoot, man, like. We're talking about everything other. We're talking about drums, of course, because he's a DW artist as well, and he has been
for years,
30 years. Like he was at the beginning of DW, and but it's just
I've seen his videos on Drumeo, and I don't know how many times I watched them, man, because there's some stuff in there. I was like, wait a minute, what did he just do? And it's so subtle, but it's also so awesome.
I love him. I mean, like that whole backwards cymbal thing, and then John Blackwell was like the first guy that I saw do it. But he got that from Sugarfoot, and Sugarfoot was John Blackwell's favorite drummer, you know. Right. And
another amazing drummer too.
Another amazing drummer, and a tragedy that he isn't with us anymore.
Yeah. So let's just before we get to the States, I want to go back and touch on Sons of Zion because they were a really a good band, a favorite band of mine. I never got to see them in New Zealand. I was living overseas at the time. How did you get sort of roped into that? Did you know a few of the boys, or was it an audition, or how did that all happen?
It was. I guess, so there's the core group of the band, and then a friend of mine that I used to do a jam night with every Thursday night at the Juice Bar in Parnell in Auckland would do an R&B jam night. So he ended up being kind of like a sub, and then kind of like I think then he's a full member now, fully fledged member of the band and the writing and everything like that. But at the time he was just like a session dude. And then the drummer for the band kind of wanted to go in a different direction. Tafferty, incredible drummer. and he kind of wanted to focus more on his family, and he had a family and everything, and the band was
Right.
touring a lot and traveling, so that's understandable. So then my mate Matt, who was he was just playing keys and saxophone at the time, but he was the bass player on the jam night. He's
Right.
like, yo, I got a buddy that would be great for this band. So I didn't really try out, but I just did one rehearsal with them. Then we did the show the next night,
Yeah.
and then we kind of just went from there, you know.
Yeah.
And reggae was something that I played in. I mean, it's like a reggae R&B hybrid anyway.
Yeah.
That kind of music, you know, which a lot of New Zealand reggae is. There are some bands which are a little more true to maybe like of the reggae style, but there's a lot of hybrids going on, which is a very New Zealand sound, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I think the New Zealand we've put our spin on reggae.
Yeah,
Herbs, and then of course Catch a Fire. They are probably the closest thing that we have to to sort of traditional reggae. But even then, it's sort of
I know like House of Shem is another one that's kind of like a stickler for like the one drop and with that kind of style.
And then, like you say, your hybrids like Fat Freddy's Drop was a game changer. Trinity Roots, you know, like those guys were sort of reggae-ish, but not more soul.
Yeah, like introduced like dub, I guess, is like what that. Exactly. And I still, when I try and explain dub, I'm still kind of, there has to be an explanation for it, but it's obviously has the reggae roots to it.
Yeah.
But I don't know what else it's mixed with. You know, like reggae and soul. I mean, it's not that there isn't soul in reggae music, but it's just, you know. But that is our sound, you know,
for sure. And it's interesting.
So like Salmonella, like
Tikitane.
More Tikitane than Salmonella, because Salmonella was
more electronic,
almost a drum and bass kind of and dub.
Awesome live though. Did you ever see them live when they're in the heyday?
No, I was
gonna say you would have been a young
fella. I was too young.
That's probably one of your six, mate. Like
probably.
But yeah, and it's interesting, man. Like, and I've told you this before. When I introduce people from North America to New Zealand sounds, they are like, "Who is this? Where does that come from? And what is this called?" It's not reggae, and this is how this whole sort of idea for this podcast is spawned, is trying to introduce new audiences to new music, etc., etc.
Right.
But I love it, our own sort of vibe. Like if you listen to some of the reggae bands from Hawaii, you can actually notice the difference. It's not the same. It's similar-ish.
Huge difference, yeah.
But it's all sort of from the same sort of. I think it's all cultural, right? Like it's.
Yeah, I mean, I have friends that would be able to better articulate the differences between New Zealand reggae and like New Zealand reggae, which is kind of island reggae, but then it's different island reggae to reggae from the islands.
Right, traditional Jamaica reggae, yeah.
Yeah. Then there's that, and then there's like Hawaiian reggae is definitely different again. Like you can tell when it's Hawaiian, if it's a Hawaiian band, or you can tell if it's a Kiwi band, or you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Then there's Australian reggae bands that are like Maldives or Mozzies over there, and they kind of have like their own thing going on too. And I think it's beautiful, man, to have different shades of like the same, of a similar style. And that's how it should be. It shouldn't be everyone just playing just like the Bob Marley reggae or whatever that we kind of grew up with. Always change and evolve and, push the envelope if you can.
Yeah.
And then like 660, they first hit the scene, I think, with that reggae tune, and then kind of did nothing like it since. It's just that was their.
And they blew up. I saw they sold out Western Springs not too long ago, right? Which for a Kiwi band, like
for sure,
mate.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. Incredible. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was a kid, the biggest New Zealand bands at the time were like the Exponents. Do you know what I mean?
And I saw them live in Wellington. I remember.
I'm sure.
I love that band.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Kiwi music. You want to be proud of.
Hearty Kiwi music.
Proud of that.
Yep. Dave Dobbin, same sort of vein.
The dudes, the dudes and Dragon, and all from that similar time. And then, like She Had turned up.
Oh,
and
wicked.
Super Groove.
Oh yeah, so many. Yeah.
All these other bands that kind of like, and Super Groove was incredible, man. And then, then Shay Fu obviously spawned off and did his thing, and I have friends. I mean, like I know Shay and his whole band and stuff. It's just it's really it's it's really awesome to be able to grow up with music and then meet these people and then play with these people. Like Nesian Mystic was one for me.
Yeah.
Growing up with that music, and then to Awanui Rita, he was who I was with in Hawaii. So Awa from Nesian Mystic, like the main singer, the Māori dude in there. I think he was the only Māori guy in the band, and the rest were like Tongans and Samoans. But I was in Hawaii with him, and then BS&T. We kind of planned it, prior to me going there, and they were like, at the back end of that tour, we'll fly you here just to meet the big boss, the one who started the band back in '67, who was the original drummer, who found Jarko and put him in the band, then produced Jarko's record. Bobby Colombi, he's the one who was like, let's fly you here just to get a vibe. And I was in LA for, I think, 18 hours. And then they flew me back to New Zealand.
Right.
And not at any cost to me. So I'm like, man, this is for real,
Right.
And then it just went
so
on
let's loot about that. So you went over, you met the guys, they flew you back home, you're still touring with Sun's Design. How long did it take until you got the old, yo, here's your plane ticket, you're moving to the States?
So it was kind of somewhat of a drawn out process. So I first went to the States in 2013 off the back of that trip with Awa. And Matt was also in that band, the guy who's still in Sun's Design now, is now the bass player and one of the writers for the band. So I went, that was in 2013 in September. Then they brought me to the States and now to the East Coast on at the end of 2013 to sit in, and they sent me one song to learn, and I sat in on 4 gigs, and they had the drummer there. Then he jumped off, and I played that one song and did a solo and did all the spinny stuff that they like asked me to do.
Yeah.
Then I hopped off, and then he played the rest of the show. So it's like super, super weird,
Got to be weird. So did he get fired, or was he just leaving, or what was the story?
This band kind of always, like, management they always want like new and fresh and vibrant and like exciting, and like that's what they want for the band. And
right.
That's kind of how it always was. I mean, the band changed almost completely like 2 years after the band started.
Right.
I mean, the original drummer who's the one who brought me here in the first place, he left the band he tells me in 74.
Okay.
So the band had only been gone for 7 years, and then he was like, I don't want to play drums for the band anymore. Like he owns the rights, so he was smart.
Very
owns
smart.
the rights to the name.
Yeah.
So no one else can use that, just us, and he has the hand in picking everybody in the band. So even by when Jarko was in the band, obviously he wasn't the original bass player, but what the vision is for the band is to always have like the best players available, except for the drummer, and just have them playing their music at the best, the best way possible. That's kind of the vision and like the drive behind Blood, Sweat and Tears, and that's how we're still around and we're still playing shows, and people are aware of that because David Clayton Thomas, who was the most famous singer for the band, wasn't the original singer, but he's the one that everybody knows. So we kind of, Keith and whoever else was before him, try to stay true and pay tribute to the singers before them,
right,
while also bringing their own flavor as well.
Is the odd shows where they bring back some of the old guys for like on the 50 year the Woodstock thing? Was there guys that come back, or that doesn't?
There's Bobby's the only one that has a hand in in anything to do with the band right now, because everyone else sadly some of them have passed on,
right?
Because Bobby himself I think is 74, and so some have passed on and some are just doing. One guy he's a lecturer at Berklee College of Music, or a professor there, and then some have just retired, like David Clayton Thomas, who was the singer that everyone knows but wasn't the original. I'm not sure I did this. But he's the one everybody knows, and like he does I think like 4 shows a year.
Okay.
So they just don't have it in them anymore to get up at 6 a.m. to catch this flight and then jump on another flight and then play a gig that night just to leave. I mean, we've done stuff where we've flown into Germany, played that night, leave the next day to play down in Florida. Now it's like 20 something hours traveling.
Man alive.
you know, in this, it's like 20. I did the math on one time. It was like we had like a 49-hour space of time, and we were traveling like in a plane or in a shuttle or something, like 23 hours of that. So
Right.
and we slept like one night, and we're playing shows, doing sound checks, and meet and greets and all that inside of that as well. So
Right.
it can be really tolling on the body, and
Of course.
you got
Different time zones, airplanes,
yeah.
just with the air conditioning and all the nonsense that's floating around in there. It's easy to get
I mean, just
sick.
flying to Europe, man. You're flipped. Everything's flipped. You want to go to sleep, and it's the sun. It's midday or whatever, and it feels like 9 p.m. to you or whatever, and then you got to get up and go and do a show and do it to the best of your ability. But that's what we're expect. It's what's expected of us, and I guess we pride ourselves in that too. I mean, we say in the band, and I think this is just across the music industry of touring musicians, that we play for free, we get paid to travel.
Right.
Because that is what is the hard part. Like we love playing, we want to play. That's exciting for us. That's fun for us. But the travel is what we get paid to do, because it can be really grueling, man. Like, sure, it looks fun. Like, oh man, he's going on another plane. Like, that's so cool. I don't want to sit next to like two other people,
Yeah.
for 6 hours like this,
Yeah.
or whatever, like that. Especially because I'm 6'2" and like 108 kilograms. So
Right.
I mean, I'm small for a Samoan,
Right.
but I'm big for a regular guy.
Yeah, man. Those seats, mate. I'm 5'11" and I'm 102 kg, and I find it bad enough. I fly all around the US for work as well, and the domestic airlines, I think the seats are smaller, and it's just it's ugly, man.
They jam everyone in to make put more seats, and more bums on seats means more money.
Exactly. So we've been talking about your playing and all that sort of thing. So what we're going to do now is we're going to watch a video of Dylan. So stand by for this. So there you go. There's Dylan Elise playing, and this whole podcast today is at his studio in LA, as he said, and that's where it was recorded. So there's his kit there, his Pride and Joy. So very quickly, let's get back to, like, obviously with COVID right now, everything's on hold. What are the plans for Blood, Sweat and Tears for 21? And what are your plans for the next few years?
My plans, I think when I was younger, I had ideas for where I wanted to be when I was, 25 and 30, which I did the 25 one, the 30 one. I think the 31 happened, but the 35 one, I don't think I'm ready for that yet.
Do you want to share what that is?
I'm trying to think if, like, I know that when before I turned 25, I wanted to be living, or I wanted to be in America. And with everything that happened, I moved here, in February of 2014, which is, so I was 24, and that's 3 months before I turned 25. So like that one happened.
Right.
Really happy about that. And then I think by 30, I wanted to own a house and have a studio. Well, I have the studio part, but this is not quite a house. And houses are very expensive here. I mean, I know they're really expensive back in New Zealand too. I think more so there. Like the dollar is different, but it's ridiculous in New Zealand. And I think 35 was, married and the kids in the house and all that kind of stuff, like fully.
Yep.
I just turned 30, so one of them's kind of done. We'll see how we go with the 35.
So methodical. Listen, for 30 years old,
everything about me, man, is I'm pretty regimented with certain things.
Well,
I'm a little OCD.
That just illustrates your success too. Like if you weren't that regimented, you probably wouldn't have done all those hours on practice pads and going through your rudiments and all that sort of thing, right? So it's just part of your success.
It's a product of, it's definitely a byproduct of me being a little OCD and just I like things to be done right, and I'm very methodical with how I do.
I think also maybe credit goes to your folks as well, homeschooling you. They probably installed a few really good values in you then as well. Yeah,
mum, she did a great job. But then my sister and I, we kind of did a lot of stuff on our own too. Actually, just kind of just different things that mum couldn't teach us or whatever. We just kind of worked things out ourselves. And Hannah and I are really, really similar. Really similar. I mean, people will hang out with her and they'll feel like they're with the good, just like me as a girl. Just our mannerisms and everything. And because we're so close, we butt heads sometimes. But mum's certainly proud.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, mums are always proud. You could do something really bad and mum's still gonna be, well, at least you tied your shoes right that day. I'm like, they're gonna find something to be proud about. so she's
a couple of things I just want to ask for any listeners or anyone watching this that has maybe just started to pick up an instrument or is maybe 4 or 5 years into it, thinking about sort of trying to take this as a full-time thing. What's 2 things that you've learned? Because listen, there's always wins in anything we do, whether it be music or whether it be life in general. And I'm sure you've had a few like, oh shit, that wasn't too good, I won't do that again. Right. Is there 2 things that you can sort of think of to just to put out there for other people that are wanting to do what you've done?
Okay, if you're interested in it, like as a hobby or something, like do something else. Right. Like you got. Do something other than do music, because it is really, really tough.
Right.
And the only way that you're going to make it, I mean, sure, some people that are less talented get famous and whatever, but if you really want to commit to doing this, you have to commit to it. I mean, you have to put in the work. You can't just be like, yeah, I'm kind of interested in this is what I want to do. If you're going to choose that, you have to be committed. You got to put in the hours. You got to go and. You can't be jealous. You can't, see someone else doing something better than you. You can't be like, well, they had this or whatever to help them more. Like, you have to just always want to learn, always push through like barriers. And if things are tricky, then just always ask questions and learn and get it. Certainly get a drum teacher or a music teacher for whatever instrument you're trying to do. But you got to put in the time. There's no replacement. For time that you put in,
right?
I mean, they say 10,000 hours is how long it takes to master a craft, and I've done probably closer to 30,000 hours in practice and playing, and I'm nowhere near where I want to be.
Right?
I know I'm horrible at certain things, and I'm working to perfect those, or not perfect them, but get better at them.
So just give us a sense of like when you were sort of a teenager and you're really cutting your teeth. How many hours a day would you spend practicing?
There was a point in time where I was practicing at least 12 hours a day.
12 hours a day? Jesus.
Yeah. So, obviously over 7 days, that's, what's my maths, 84? Wait, what is it? 7 times 12?
Don't ask me about math, bro. Dude, I can hardly spell my last name, and it's Thomas.
I'm having a blank right now. I'm going to blame it on COVID-19.
Yeah. We'll just say a lot.
It's 84, yeah? Yeah, what an idiot. It's 84. So, yeah, that's 84 hours a week, you know. And sometimes it was more than that. So, you really, like, yeah, there's just a lot of time, man. A lot of time, and there's no substitute for time and practice. I mean, you can do this practice, and there's, like, good practice, you know, and you want to make sure that you are doing when you're practicing stuff. You're not going to create bad habits. You want to make sure that you don't have to do 12 hours a day in order to be good at something. It takes me a long time to learn something, so I have to do it over and over and over before it's embedded in my brain, or it's a technique or something before it actually starts coming into fruition. But other people learn things quicker. I mean, that's like some people are more naturally talented at certain things, you know.
For sure.
And drumming was not something I was talented at. I just put in the thousands of hours that got me to where I am now. I mean, if you see a drumming video of me when I'm 6 years old, you're like, get this kid out of here and get him to do something else. This is not his calling, you know. Right. But persistence, man, and however that happens. I mean, it was something that I was more coerced to do. It was like, this is what you should do, you know. But I'm happy that I'm doing it, and I wouldn't do anything other than play drums, other than maybe be a cop.
Right.
If I didn't play music, I would be either a teacher or a cop.
Right.
100%.
Interesting.
Back in New Zealand. Not here.
Not here. No.
It's really, really, yeah, it's dangerous.
Listen, man, there's one thing.
Both sides.
One thing I did want to say to you, and I said before when we weren't recording, is one thing I've noticed is just your personality through the years. Like, you've kept your feet fully on the ground. You're a humble dude. See, you can't even this isn't even a compliment. I'm just saying what's in front of me. You're a humble dude, and it's just so extraordinary, mate, to see you on the world stage doing what you're doing and staying fully grounded. So, man, I've enjoyed following you over these years. There's that creepy old guy following that young kid again.
Some more, mate. Come on.
Oh, man, I'm on board. And listen, I'm telling everyone, like, go check Dylan out. So, Dylan Elise, drummer at Facebook. Dylan Elise, drummer guy on Insta.
Dylan the drummer guy.
Dylan the drummer guy. Go check him out.
On Instagram. There's
some awesome videos there. All the links are going to be in the description down below, so you can find them really, really easy. Mate, I just want to thank you, Dylan, for taking time out. I know you're super busy, man. You had to get to your studio today that could have been or could not have been under curfew, so I appreciate it, man. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you.
My mate Rick, the bass player, they're like protests right now where he lives,
right,
which is near where Dave Weckl lives, and we hope it stays peaceful, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm worried for him right now, and it is definitely an interesting time, but we're just, you know, persevere, man.
Got to do it.
Yeah, we're faced with adversity of different levels, and we just push through, be positive, and work with what you got, and be nice to each other, man.
Yeah, exactly. Just be
show some love, you know. Yeah.
All right, mate. Thanks again. I really appreciate it. And
cheers,
all the best going forward, man. And I look forward to 2021 and what's going to come your way.
Me too, bro. All right, man.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate.